Okay, so get your oven preheated first of all, gas 6 or 200, or if you've got a fan, 190. And then the next thing to do is to grease your baking tray. Use a non-stick one. Okay, so next you need to weigh out 40 grams of plain flour and just add a scant pinch of salt to this. You can also add a scant pinch of sugar if you want to just add a slightly sweet edge to the pastry. Then in a saucepan you need to weigh 15 grams of butter or block margarine and add in 60 ml of water. Pop it onto the hob, and what you want to do is to heat that up. You want the butter to melt, and what we're aiming to do is we're aiming to heat the water up enough so that we start to see bubbles. Now when we see the bubbles, we know we're reaching boiling point. What we're going to do is tip the flour in all in one go. So you'll see we've got the flour set up waiting at the side to tip in. So as soon as those bubbles appear, be ready, tip the flour in, and with your wooden spoon beat the mixture vigorously until you get a smooth dough, and it will come away from the side of the pan when it's ready. So switch the heat off and set the dough aside to cool. Pop it on a cooling rack. Okay, so into a jug you're going to crack your egg, and then you're going to use a fork to beat the egg until it's smooth. So you really want it to be just combined, the yolk and the white, until it's all nice and smooth. Then go back to your dough. When your dough is cool enough, so it just needs to be warm, you're going to add a little bit of the beaten egg at a time and beat it into the dough. Now you can see that this is pretty hard work, so you have to beat your mixture quite vigorously. Your arm will start to ache, and that's okay, consider it an arm workout, and just keep going. You may or may not need to use all of your egg. What we're aiming to do is to create a dough with what we call dropping consistency. So that's when we lift up the spoon, it just starts to slide off the spoon. So as we add more and more egg in, the dough will become a little looser in texture. And here you can see that I did use all my egg, I did need all my egg to create that dropping consistency. However, if you don't need all your egg, that's fine. But if you do use all your egg and it's still not quite dropping consistency, you can see here the dough's still a little bit tight. What you would need to do is just add in a teaspoon or 2 of water. Make sure you beat it after each teaspoon so you can judge the consistency. And as you can see here, dropping consistency means just dropping off the spoon. Then we need to fill the piping bag if you want to pipe your profiteroles. You do not have to. You can use a teaspoon and to put 6 even-sized blobs onto your tray. That's perfectly fine. So if you're piping, pipe round in a circle, push down and release. You want to make sure that you have got 6 evenly sized bits of mixture. This mixture should make 6 profiteroles exactly. You can see that because we used a piping bag, there's a little point on the top. Just a little bit of water and your finger to smooth them off before you pop them into the oven for baking. So for the chocolate topping, you'll need to pop your chocolate pieces into a mixing bowl, 40 grams, and add 10 grams of soft butter or margarine and a tablespoon of milk. Then you're going to pop this over the top of a pan of simmering water. So you can use the pan that you created your dough in, it's okay if it's dirty. You just pop the water onto simmer and place the bowl over the top. Now the steam is going to hit the bottom of the bowl, warming the bowl to a nice gentle temperature to allow the chocolate to melt without burning. Check it with a fork after a few minutes, and when it's ready to mix together because it's all melted, combine it and then set it aside to cool. Once your profiteroles come out of the oven, you'll need to prick some holes into the bottom of them using a skewer or a sharp knife. And then you're going to pop them back into the oven. The oven should be switched off at this point to just really dry and crisp inside. So for the filling, we're going to measure 100 ml of double cream and just add a teaspoon of icing sugar to sweeten that cream up a little. If you wanted to add any flavours to this, you could add something like lemon zest or orange zest, or even some vanilla extract. And you're going to whip the cream, keep going, with an electric mixer until you reach soft peak stage. Now the soft peak stage is important because when we pipe it, it means that the cream is going to hold its shape. The thing to be aware of though is that you can easily over whip your cream if you're using an electric mixer, so when you see it starts to thicken, that's when you really need to keep checking it. Now the profiteroles should be ready to come out of the oven at this stage, and you just need to let them cool fully before we start to do anything like filling them. So the profiteroles at this stage must be completely cold. And then we're going to fill them with cream. So cold pastry shells being filled with cream. Here we're piping them, and you should have just the right amount of cream to fill 6 profiteroles. And they should be full of cream, so they're not just half empty. Now, piping might be difficult for some people, so this is an alternative way to fill them. You can just cut the profiterole open and add cream using a teaspoon if you struggle to pipe. It doesn't look quite as neatly finished, but it will work. Now, the chocolate sauce must be cold at this point, so the topping must be cold, otherwise it will cause your cream to melt and ooze out. Use your spatula to get the very last bits of chocolate out and make sure that each profiterole is evenly coated. Okay? So just a recap of the main key points. When you're making the dough, the dropping consistency, the texture of the dough is really key. Make sure that you adjust the texture of the dough. Remember that you may not need to use all your egg. If you do and it still isn't dropping consistency, then what you'll need to do is adjust it using a teaspoon of water if necessary. A key safety point is when you're using the bain-marie, you want the bowl to be lifted towards you to prevent steam scalds. Now, when it comes to baking, you'll need to make sure that the profiteroles are crisp and golden, and that's a really key point because if they are underbaked, the pastry shells will be soft and soggy and they won't have that nice crispness. Now, whipping the cream, you really need to take care not to over whip the cream because you'll end up with butter. And then equally, when you are filling and putting the chocolate topping onto the profiteroles, what you must make sure of is that everything is cold at this stage, so nothing can be warm. Otherwise, you'll end up with your cream filling oozing out, melting and making the profiteroles a bit of a soggy mess. Okay?